innovation is critical aspect in construction industry. What are some of the new innovations brought by the new National Building Code 2024? What are those? Are there any innovations?
The old code was, I would use the word prescriptive. But now the new code is, I would call it descriptive, or what she mentioned, performance-based. So it doesn't limit developers, those who want to put up their buildings. It doesn't limit the professionals who are supporting those who want to put up their buildings. Is to exactly what do you have to use. You're not limited, you must use concrete of this type or this particular walling, but it tells you if you are to construct a wall, for example, the wall should have these minimum performance criteria, like it should be able to support the load, so the structure should be sound, it should be able to resist fire, it should be able to resist water, and then it links you to the relevant local standards, whether Kenya standards or Euro codes. Then you check, okay, your engineer team, for example, say if we have to meet this in terms of structural integrity, I could probably use concrete, I could use Darugo stones, I could use even my natural earth, or like the Makika stones you're talking about, and be able to achieve that. And I think that is really an enabler for innovation, because then we can be able to explore what works for me. Innovation mostly they say is driven by necessity. So it may be driven by a need to save on cost. It may be driven by a need for addressing environmental impact or the footprint of our construction. So people can begin to create. And then one thing that is very important to highlight as well with regards to that in terms of innovation, even the young people, the Juakali sector, the creative sector, can now bring up their materials that have not been used in the industry because of the code. Because all the code asks you is, if the material is completely new, and you don't necessarily even have the standards already that are passed, you can actually bring lab tests. You can actually bring your results that you've tested this one, you've experimented with it, and these are the results. And then the approving authorities can actually be able to look at that and say, yes, it meets the requirements that had been set in the code. So that, I think, to me is a key enabler for innovation. Then number two, issue of inclusivity, which I referred to earlier. The code speaks about of integrating everyone, and QS mentioned that. First, I like the aspect that in paragraph 2 of the code, we talk about promoting our way of building. That if I'm building my single dwelling, which meets my cultural, climatic context, I don't have to subject it to the rigor of this development. What does that mean? We are actually promoting the local industry, especially at the rural level. If you look, for example, from perspective of residents, and most of our people, many build by themselves. We are self-builders. We build very cheap houses that some of them are less than 1 million shilling. So we are not able to necessarily afford to go through that struggle. The old code was so strict that you could not. You were either, elitish, you have to have all these architects, all those people. It was like silent on our need for that. Then it integrates people living with disability very strongly. This is an aspect of inclusion that you have to ensure that your building is accessible to everybody. And all the public spaces that you're providing, that I think is an aspect of innovation that we are open to look at, that people are not, granular. We have many different people who need to be accommodated. And lastly, I will talk strongly about the issue of environmental consideration. As we all know that we are living in the times that the climate is, in fact, are here with us. We have issues of flooding recently. The government is committing itself to, global environmental agreements, trying to address the climate change. So if you look at the code, it speaks very strongly on issues of environmental, from waste management to renewable energy, that you need to factor in this in your building. It talks about indoor air quality. You must ensure that rooms are habitable. QS mentioned some rooms that we have where people cannot even, you cannot breathe. The code now tells you, for example, you cannot build your house and live not less than a space of 1.5 meters. It talks about how do you treat spaces. You have seen in the residential communities, what Wakanya Power or some have dug around the public utilities that have walked away. without making good of it. The code really makes it mandatory for everybody who demolishes, who destroys public utility, they must make good of it, and they actually need to submit money with the authority, or if not, they have to correct. Otherwise, it is a penalty. So I think the code really is very, 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 very good and progressive in that sense that it allows the communities, also the residential neighborhood associations, to have power to hold people accountable in their construction site. When they, for example, destroy the public utilities, when you don't provide lighting, you don't provide adequate space for your neighbors, now as a residential association, you can go actually to seek redress, and you can refer to the code, which is an enforceable document. Thank you.
Definitely, in terms of satisfaction is relative, and I can say, as an organization, we definitely welcome, and we are, I can say, 50-50, because there are a number of things that we had actually emphasized to see in the new code. But the first satisfaction is that we already have a new building code that we can build on, that is a plus. And then the dissatisfaction are some of the key things that I mentioned earlier, that it lacked the inclusivity of the other professions, of which I think the window that we have until the enactment or being put in place in next year, February, will definitely have an engagement and see how all the other professionals can actually come on board, so that, because their contribution in the built environment is very critical. As the QS had mentioned about some of our colleagues in the building industry had actually done a demonstration, I'm sure some of you are aware of. And the other thing that is not of satisfaction is when you look at clause 161, where it uses the word may in terms of sustainability design, integrating sustainability design strategies, in the time of climate change, in terms of, we really have to be very forward-looking in terms of what are some of the things that we integrate in our built environment, So when it uses the word may, that it says developer may incorporate sustainable strategies. I think it should actually be mandatory for sustainability issues to be incorporated when working in the built environment, when we are doing our buildings. The other thing is also it's not clear in terms of energy, in terms of energy requirements, integration of solar in our buildings, which definitely gives room for, in the window that we still have, for change. And as the kiosk mentioned, definitely the new code gives us a timeline of every 5 years. We have to look at it. And with the association as Kara being at the forefront in terms of looking at what are some of the things that we want to incorporate, how do we make our living in our neighborhood safe, comfortable? It becomes very important so that we have a very clear, because with time there are new technologies, incorporation of new technologies, new materials, sandwich panels, for example, and steel structures, steel frames. It gives, those are new approaches that the building industry is looking into, and having definitive approaches really makes it a better thing for all of us.
What will you do differently to ensure the objective of this new code is achieved?
Like, as a developer, I know you've designed your own house. And you did not make changes until the design or a draft design was given to you. It was only until you are given a draft that is when you are able to see, oh, now I don't want this, maybe we change this, like this, like this. So it is the same thing here. I know with building code, now we have it. So we have an opportunity to go through it and say, we feel this one is not adequately addressed, and what is it that we need to do about it? And the beauty of it is that we've already said in the building code there is a provision for reviewing it every 5 years. And in the onset of this building code, as I indicated, it was a stakeholder driven, it was consultative, but of course, maybe it was not possible to include everyone. But even the professional that has now come and say they were not included in this, basically, all the professional was part of this, but their concerns are also noted, and they are part of what will inform the revision. And then on the question, a specific question on what is it that NCA is going to do differently to ensure that this compliant, this building code is compliant to. I want to say that when you look at the responsibilities, the parties responsible, you know that we have so many of us responsible in this, starting with consultants or professionals. From the onset, from the client, when you conceive an idea, you engage a designer. So this designer is already part of the journey. So even as he designs the drawings for us, he should be able to comply to those building code. Once the design is done by the architects, which is also done further designs by maybe engineers, either structural, mechanical, electrical, or any other specialized person, and then it comes to the QS who will come up with specification. So all these people at the preliminary stage, they will be part of the journey to ensure that this building code is compliant to. And once the approval are forwarded to approving authorities, in this case the county. So county also, they will have a role when they are making their approvals. When it comes to NCA, now when the execution is being done, as it is now, we do quality assurance, we do inspection in the construction sites. So we'll also be able to cross-check and find out whether whatever is being constructed is in accordance to the building code. And most importantly is the role of the supervisors, the consulting supervisors. Because also we do not only have consultants who will only do documentation or design the documentation, but also we expect that the consultants will be part of the supervising team. So as they also supervise, they have to ensure that whatever is being implemented is what is already captured in the designs, and designs also are designed in accordance to the specification which is provided for in the building code. So I want to say it will not be only a journey of NCA, the responsibility of NCA, it is all of us. Even you as the user, you will also be able to comment and say, this one is not being done. Because also with NCA, when it comes to the inspection that I talk about, we also cannot be in every part of the construction site, because we do quality assurance, but we don't do the quality controls. So we will only ensure that in every given site there must be a supervising consultant. And that is why it is important for the project registration. Because at the stage of registering your project, it is at that point where you are able to indicate that you have a qualified contractor on site, you have a qualified engineer, a qualified architect who is able to bring up all these issues. So as long as you are able to prove that you have all these consultants on your site, we are also assured that there is quality works which is being done. But of course, apart from project registration, when we do the quality checks, we will be able to cross-check whether what you provided to us at the early stages of submission of registration is actually the same parties. Because we've also noted that we did our research in 2019, and most of our buildings, 64% were not being supervised. Yes, when they register the project, they indicate that so and so is my architect, is my engineer, but it is only for the purposes of registering the project. But once they go to the ground to start construction, they don't engage all those consultants. And that is why it is important for all of us to work as a team. It is very limited that we can do as the authority, because you realize that responsibility rests with all of us.
It's good how the QS has actually explained. What I wanted to add is, as an organization, we had a statement to the new building code, and one of the things that we proposed to the NCA, because it actually lies under them, is the formation of the code council. Because we've spoken here to the 5 years that we always wanting to review. So by the formation, this was our proposal. This is our proposal as an organization. The formation of this code council, where it incorporates all these other professionals in the built environment. As we are aware that now the built environment is just one entity. And the other thing that I wanted to add to what you're saying is, in terms of, I say from my experience, over 10 years of experience in the industry, the number one people or sector that really supports probably not adherence to some of the codes is the client, us who are seated here, the developer. Because the reason I say that is you meet a client, they give you a brief. You are there, you do the design and everything, of course involving all the professionals. And then when it comes to site, she mentioned that some of the clients or the developers only want the professionals to approve. Because for you to get NCA approval, you must have an architect, you must have a QS, you must have a structural engineer, and any other relevant, depending on the project.